I have another
We're not
topic.
debating, if you have another topic, please, because I think we've closed down on this one, I would hope.
Yeah, if you're not going to answer the questions, that's fine. We'll move on.
I think
So
everyone has,
the next-
I think, sir, I think they have been answered, and further, I think the attorney, ladies and gentlemen at home, has answered it. Your next topic, please?
Yes, my next topic is also a follow-up on a item we discussed at the October conference meeting. That conference meeting wasn't televised, as they're usually not televised. At that meeting, I raised the issue of the pay raise for the township manager. As has been discussed previously, the mayor awarded a pay increase to the township manager without consulting the township council. I am certain as I could be that this action was illegal because the mayor does not have the authority to do so himself in a Faulkner Act council manager form of government. Only the township council as a body can do this. Maybe after the election, when it will be less embarrassing for the mayor, we will meet as a body to discuss managerial performance and compensation. In the meantime, however, I think it is important to correct the record with regards to a number of things that were said at the last council meeting. At that last meeting, I read 17 letters from past mayors to CFOs that were extremely consistent in referencing that the township council met and discussed managerial pay increases. The evidence was and is overwhelming that it is not past precedence for mayors to unilaterally decide and enact pay raises in Scotch Plains. At our last meeting, rather than take responsibility for his mistakes, the Kevin Glover administration advanced an argument that Scotch Plains has been rife with illegality in its pay practices for many years. This was a concerted effort to discredit those letters. They were labeled as allegations, and it was said they were not supported by real evidence as really having happened. Central to that argument, which was put forward in a memo by our attorney, Mr. Renaud, is that there are missing records. His memo says, and I quote, "There are no minutes for any conference meetings during this time period. Another astounding piece of information is that the clerk did not attend conference meetings." He later goes on to cite Open Public Meetings Act law, which says, "Each public body shall keep reasonably comprehensible minutes of all its meetings, showing the time and place, the members present, the subjects considered, etc." He goes on to say that there are apparently no minutes of any meeting which indicate that the manager's salary was discussed or support the contention that the council acted as a body.
Please.
And Councilman Del Sordi even weighed in at that point. He said, "This is appalling. These people need to be held accountable." Having read and heard all of that, Mayor Glover then took it a step further by saying the following, and I quote, "I'm terribly disappointed by this whole process. It was intended to cast aspersions, and regrettably, in fact, it did just that." He said, "There's no reference here, and I really implore you to read Mr. Renaud's written summary, because there are no records." Mr. Del Sordi said, "How can there be no records?" I'm still quoting the mayor saying that. "How can there be CCs to selected people, but in only one case to a member of the governing body? And I look out here and suspect many of you people are in business, and you know Business 101 is you want to say something that says we all agree, then we all agree, should all be copied on, we all agreed." I'm still quoting the mayor here. "Notwithstanding, if not, then there ought to be a record that these things actually took place." He continued, "I do believe this has cast aspersions on some good people, including our former manager who served this community faithfully for 28 years. He concluded, "Some people out there are probably owed an apology from past administrations. That said, and some need to be held accountable for what they said that may not have been correct." So that's the end of the mayor's quote. So having heard all of these accusations of past council members having acted in bad faith, and the suggestion that the letters were potentially fabrications and that there are no minutes of any meetings, I asked this afternoon if I could have access to the records room. What I found were neatly bound minutes from all those years. And in fact, I brought down with me a bunch of the binders of the minutes from those meetings. So here's 1992, 1993, 1994, 1991, 1999, so they're here, they exist. Neatly bound minutes. So my question is, how can the Kevin Glover administration, as documented by the attorney, put forward an argument that there are no minutes, when a simple look in the records room shows that they're there? The answer, in part, is that the attorney has a conflict of interest in this case. Per public finance records, he has now donated $4,000 to Mayor Glover's re-election campaign. And he is writing memos, both on this topic and the health benefits topic, that the mayor is parroting to distract from his own misdeeds. The mayor's own words show how he has parroted just that, trying to denigrate honorable people in a sad attempt to distract from his mistakes. These records, these binders are proof that what we have here is a cover-up designed to protect the mayor from his misdeeds. Mayor, you said that apologies are owed and that there needs to be accountability. With that, I would agree. Would you like to take this opportunity to apologize?
Thank you for your comments. I'll have our attorney respond one more time in public now that you've had fun with your grandstanding. Mr. Bernard, please.
Well, I was expecting after that councilman was going to suggest that there were minutes that supported the letters, that is, that some action was taken by council. That's not the case. There are no records. I have to tell you, I don't have time to go through all of the minutes as you apparently did, but it sounds as though there are no minutes that support any of the actions. Additionally, in order for an action to be taken, an official action of the governing body, it has to be taken by resolution. There are no resolutions of any such action. So the fact that there may be, and my understanding is that those are not minutes taken by the municipal clerk, who is the official who's charged with taking minutes. So they're notes of someone, but they're not minutes of the governing body, because only the municipal clerk can take minutes of the governing body. So I don't agree that anything in that memorandum was incorrect. I guess that's the main point. I would point out, incidentally, you know, I frankly wasn't expecting a personal attack, but as long as you're handing them out, you know, I would notice that according to the same public records that you looked at, which is the ELEC records that are public records, that the attorneys who became the attorneys when after you were elected and who contributed to your campaign also made donations during the period of time that you were serving on council after you were elected. Now, they have a constitutional right, just like I do and my firm does, to make contributions should we so choose. The Supreme Court, I'm not sure that I agree with it, but the Supreme Court of the United States has declared that we all have such a constitutional right. So to suggest that there is something improper about my making a political contribution when people donated to your campaign and then you voted to appoint them as the municipal attorneys is rather disingenuous. I don't think I have anything else to say, Mayor.
I have just a couple quick responses to that. First, I'll go back and look at my ELEC report. I don't think I'll see any of those sorts of contributions, and if there is such a contribution, it certainly won't be anywhere near the order of magnitude of $4,000 that you've donated. I would also add that I did not challenge your right to make the contribution. Absolutely, you have the right to make the contribution. My point was that in an issue as sensitive as the matter of the mayor's actions, I think it means you have a conflict of interest weighing in on that issue. You also said that, you know, I'd gone through these minutes and I didn't have any substance in terms of the actions being taken. On the contrary, I did spend a lot of time reviewing the minutes today, and I'll read one such example here. And frankly, I have many, many such examples of the council discussing this matter. So the first example here is the minutes of a conference meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Scotch Plains held on December 18th, 2007 at 7:30 p.m. at the Municipal Building. In attendance, Mayor Martin Marks, Councilwoman Coronado, Councilwoman Malul, Councilman Kevin Glover, and Councilman Strauss, along with Tom Atkins, Municipal Manager, Brian Levine, Township Attorney, and Barbara Reeby, Township Clerk. And as I flip through these minutes, it says here, under the section of discussions personnel, item number 1, discussion 2008 compensation for the municipal manager, base salary. The manager was not present during this part of the discussion. The manager was out of the room for a few minutes. Mr. Levine came to get the manager, and the mayor and council advised him of the request for 2008. And then at the end of that, it says CC'd to mayor and council, and the mayor and council were all given a copy of these minutes as I understand them. So the assertion that you previously made and just reiterated that there's no evidence in any of these minutes that such discussions took place simply doesn't seem to be the case to me. I got copies here of these discussions from 1994, from 1993, 1991, 1999, 2001, 2003. They're there. I don't know what else to say to it than that. I guess in conclusion, I would just again contrast that with what the mayor said at the last meeting, which was that there's no records. Well, there are records of this happening. In fact, there's records of it happening with him right there in the room, and he was CC'd on them. And he says, Business 101 is you want to say something says we all agree, then we all agree should all be copied on that all agreed. Well, Mayor, you were copied on these minutes. You were at that meeting, and you were copied on the minutes, and the minutes exist. So, look, folks, unfortunately, the cover-up here is worse than the crime. We have a mistake that could have been fixed. It could have been fixed by an action of this council. But instead of admitting a mistake, further lies have been promulgated, and that makes this a very sad day for governance in Scotch Plains.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any further comments?
No, I just reiterate that the only actions that council can take are by ordinance or resolution, and there are no such things.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good.
Okay, well, my only comment is that on November 8th there's an election. I would encourage everyone to go out and participate. Hopefully there'll be a nice turnout. Hopefully the weather will be good. And my last comment, since everyone else has a comment, folks, we hear a lot about civility. Well, today is another example where we have people drawing into question our legal counsel in a way that I consider to be incredibly uncivil. And so hopefully going forward, even this will pass. So I encourage everyone who have listened to go out and vote. It's your constitutional duty and your constitutional right. So thank you. With that,